The ground felt like it was still shaking, though Liam suspected that was just his legs refusing to stop trembling. Smoke curled around half-melted alloy pillars and the cracked shells of ground assault drones, and the burnt plastic stench was so strong he was half certain his nostril hair had fused. His boots crunched over charred gravel, sending splinters of something, maybe exoskeleton, maybe polymer armor, skittering away into the gloom. "This is definitely not the supply depot," he muttered to himself, voice echoing off scorched rock walls that might once have been part of a fortress. The map on his wrist comp flickered with static, stubbornly refusing to admit he'd overshot the jump by what he guessed was, roughly half a galaxy. Hyperjump coordinates really should come with a "you sure about that?" prompt. Something shifted ahead. Through a haze of swirling ash, a figure lay slumped across twisted metal. Even at this distance, the way the body was sprawled looked wrong, too deliberate, as if the ground itself had tried to catch her and failed. Liam swallowed, pulse spiking. Logic screamed to keep walking. Someone else's war wasn't his problem. He was a fixer of rusted hull plates and stubborn fusion cores, not a medic, let alone a hero. But her hair, a spill of coppery red against blackened steel, moved ever so slightly. Alive then, or about to be. Liam let out a shaky breath, stepping closer, each stride crunching through shards of shattered drones. When he reached her, the details sharpened. Armor scorched and dented, a burn scoring one plated shoulder. Her skin was pale, almost luminous beneath grime and ash, and then there were the ears, long, graceful, tapering past where a human ear would stop. They twitched barely, as if catching a sound from a kinder world. He crouched beside her. "Hey," he whispered, awkwardly patting her armored arm like he might coax a stubborn generator to life. "Time to get up, champ. Place is a real fixer-upper and you're scaring the neighbors." Nothing. His heart sank. The rest of the battlefield was silent, like a breath held too long. Liam shifted closer, hooking an arm around her back, feeling the weight of the armor, the alien warmth of her. Then, with a strained groan that could have belonged to either of them, she stirred. Her eyelids fluttered, revealing eyes of swirling silver, flecked with darker streaks that shifted like oil on water. A faint rasp of breath escaped her lips. "Up you go," Liam urged, voice cracking around forced levity. "Come on, I skipped arm day, don't make me regret it." She blinked again, head lolling for a moment before something like recognition sparked in those strange eyes. With a rusted laugh that died too quickly, Liam staggered them both upright. His boots slipped on melted polymer, nearly sending them crashing down again. "Whoa, okay, easy. I didn't sign up for interpretive dance lessons." As they steadied, the air itself seemed to shift. Heavy, almost reverent. From the edge of his vision, figures approached through curling smoke, tall, armored, weapons slung but ready. Liam's mouth went dry. Friends of yours." The figures marched forward until they surrounded them in a tight crescent. Then, in perfect unison, they sank to one knee, heads bowed so low the points of their helms brushed scorched earth. "Okay," Liam whispered, a note of disbelief cracking through. "Either I'm hallucinating or they think I'm someone very important. Joke S on them, I don't even have a membership card." Her voice, raw but clear, slipped past cracked lips. "They bow because you helped me," she murmured. Even in ruin, her tone carried the weight of command. "Right," Liam managed. "Totally normal. Help an injured stranger get a personal honor guard. Galactic hospitality at its finest." She blinked, long ears twitching faintly as if tasting the humor in his words. A ghost of a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth, quickly gone, but enough to loosen the ice in Liam's chest. The tallest guard rose, visor reflecting the dying light of the battlefield. He spoke in a language Liam couldn't catch, harsh consonants and soft vowels braided together. The woman straightened, her weight settling against Liam's side, and she answered with steady calm. Her words, though foreign, had a cadence of absolute authority. When she finished, the guards remained kneeling, but their postures eased, shoulders lowering slightly. Liam, fighting the absurd urge to wave like a tourist, cleared his throat. So, you got a name. Or should I keep calling you Champ? She turned those molten silver eyes to him. Kalira, she said, voice as regal as it was weary. And you? Liam Harper, occasional mechanic, full-time cosmic wrong place wrong time specialist. A flicker of amusement crossed her face. The sight startled Liam enough to nearly forget the ruined landscape around them. From somewhere beyond the smoke, the deep hum of engines cut through the silence. Liam's head jerked up as sleek skimmers drifted into view, hulls marked with the same sigil that gleamed faintly on Kalira's battered chest plate. A stylized wing coiled around a star. He glanced at her, eyebrow raised. Reinforcements or the world's angriest carpool. Reinforcements, she confirmed. That's a relief, Liam sighed. I'm still recovering from meeting your fan club. The skimmers settled on the cracked earth with a soft hiss. One opened and another guard gestured urgently for them to board. Kalira turned to Liam, expression caught between exhaustion and iron resolve. You must come with me, she said. Liam swallowed, a dry laugh slipping out. I mean, normally I'd prefer dinner first, but sure, why not? They moved together toward the craft. Smoke curled around them, and Liam couldn't help but glance back at the field where twisted drones and scorched banners lay in silent testament. Just so you know, he muttered, voice pitched for her alone. I don't usually make this kind of impression on the first date. Kalira's gaze met his, long ears shifting just slightly. Perhaps, she said, the words surprisingly gentle, this is no ordinary meeting. As the ramp closed behind them and the skimmer lifted into ash-choked air, Liam realized just how badly he wanted to believe her. The skimmer's interior was a strange marriage of polished alloy and whispering holograms that flickered and shifted like restless spirits. Liam sat stiffly on a padded bench, hands pressed to his knees, trying to look less like a bewildered tourist. Across from him, Kalira seemed carved from calm resolve, though the subtle twitch of her long ears betrayed exhaustion. So, Liam began, voice bouncing awkwardly off the hum of repulsor fields, I'm guessing this isn't your average after-battle shuttle ride. Her silver eyes shifted to meet his. No, she said, each syllable weighed, it is. Right, just checking, Liam nodded, swallowing the rising panic. You know, last week I was replacing a cracked plasma manifold. Less bowing, fewer laser holes. Kalira's lips quirked, the faintest ghost of amusement. It was enough to keep Liam talking. Silence felt like it might swallow him whole. So, when your armored fan club knelt back there, what exactly does that mean? Because if I accidentally proposed marriage, I'd really like to read the fine print first. It is not a proposal, she replied, the hint of laughter gone but something softer left behind. It is acknowledgement. In our law and lore, to aid the heiress regent in battle is to stand beside her. You have become symbol. Symbol, Liam echoed, half sighing. That sounds a lot like Target with extra steps. She didn't deny it. The skimmer banked sharply, inertia dampeners kicking in with a gentle sway that still made Liam's stomach lurch. Outside, smoke gave way to open air, revealing a sprawling citadel floating among drifting rock spires, half suspended by invisible grav fields and anchored by buttresses of dark alloy. Dozens of smaller skimmers buzzed around it like wasps around a hive. Kalira watched the fortress draw closer. This is the Ether Bastion, she said quietly, my people's last stronghold in this sector. Nice place, Liam offered, though the looming towers bristling with plasma turrets looked anything but welcoming. Bit drafty maybe, but I've seen worse rentals. She exhaled, almost a laugh. Your humor is unexpected. It's that or screaming, Liam admitted. And screaming tends to make people nervous, especially when they're armed. The skimmer settled onto a landing platform, marked by shifting sigils of light. As the ramp lowered, heat and engine fumes rushed in, carrying the faint scent of scorched ozone. Guards in ornate armor awaited them, weapons lowered but eyes sharp. Liam stood, nearly tripping over his own feet before catching himself with a muttered curse. Kalira offered her arm, not quite as an order, but not really a request either. He took it, feeling the hard edges of her armor and the living warmth beneath. Together, they stepped into the citadel's embrace. Inside, the halls felt impossibly tall, lined with metallic banners etched with alien script that shimmered as if alive. Slender drones hovered overhead, scanning and humming softly, while the floor beneath their feet pulsed with faint light at each step. "I've seen theme parks with less dramatic mood lighting," Liam murmured, earning him a sidelong look that was almost a smile. She led him into a vast chamber dominated by a single holographic projection, a starfield littered with shifting markers, some glowing bright, others flickering like dying embers. Around it, armored figures and robed advisors clustered in small groups, murmuring in hushed voices that fell silent as they entered. Every eye turned to them. "I get the feeling this is where I should say something profound," Liam whispered, mouth dry. "Say nothing," Kalira advised gently. "Let them see you." "Great," Liam muttered. "Silent, awkward human, I can do that." They crossed the room, the holographic stars throwing moving patterns of light across Kalira's armor and Liam's dusty shirt. At the far end, a raised dais waited, flanked by two massive figures in blackened battle plate. Kalira stepped forward, drawing herself taller despite the grime and cracks in her armor. One of the robed figures spoke in the same fluid, alien tongue Liam had heard before. Kalira answered with steady calm, though her voice bore a subtle edge, like iron wrapped in velvet. The exchange flowed back and forth, building in force until the robed figure stepped back, head bowed. Kalira turned to Liam. "They asked why I brought you. I told them the truth. You aided me when even my own guards could not. Did you also mention I'm completely unqualified for whatever this is?" Her eyes softened, ears tilting forward slightly. "Inexperience is sometimes strength. You do not know our chains, so you do not wear them." Liam opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. Hard to find a snappy comeback to that. From the side, another advisor, a lean woman with deep-set eyes and a cloak patterned in silver lines, stepped forward, eyeing Liam with open suspicion. "In clipped galactic common," she said, "does the offworlder speak for you now, heiress?" Liam almost choked. "Me? Oh, stars, no. I can barely speak for myself most days." Kalira's voice cooled by degrees. "He does not speak for me. He stood with me. There is a difference." A murmur spread through the chamber. Liam caught fragments of words, some respectful, others venomous. Kalira lifted a hand and silence fell again. "Enough," she declared. "Prepare the council. Tonight we speak to the assembled houses." The advisors bowed. The room began to empty, but not before more than a few of the robed figures shot Liam unreadable glances. As the doors closed behind the last of them, Liam sagged slightly, exhaling a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "That went great," he deadpanned. "Think they liked me?" Kalira studied him, the silver of her gaze softening. "They do not have to like you," she said, "only to see." "See what exactly?" Liam asked. She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "That hope can come from the unexpected, even from an offworlder who makes jokes when death walks near." "Well," Liam managed, voice cracking, "I am very consistent about the jokes part." A beat of quiet passed, broken only by the hum of distant generators. "We have little time," Kalira murmured. "Rest, eat. When night falls, you must stand beside me." "And do what exactly?" "Be yourself," she said. "That, it seems, is enough to change everything." Liam rubbed the back of his neck, already wishing he had something braver to say. Instead, he settled on, "Guess I should have packed a cleaner shirt." Kalira's long ears twitched again, and for a moment the fierce lines of her face eased. "Perhaps," she replied almost gently, "it is well you did not." As they turned down the quiet corridor toward what waited next, Liam couldn't help but wonder if galactic history had ever turned on a bad joke before. The guest quarters felt larger than Liam's entire workshop back home, yet somehow emptier. Curved alloy walls shimmered faintly, traced with shifting lines of alien script that pulsed in quiet rhythm, like the heartbeat of the fortress itself. He sat on the edge of a low-slung bed that floated a few centimeters above the polished floor, boots scuffed and hands restless. He tested the mattress, bouncing once. It hissed softly, adjusting its density, which startled him enough to mutter, "Easy, I bruise like a peach." A ceiling panel shimmered, responding to his voice by dimming the light. He exhaled, scrubbing a hand over his face. Before he could overthink what standing beside Kalira meant, a soft chime rang near the door. It split open without so much as a squeak, revealing a tray borne by a squat service drone. The machine's single optical sensor glowed a polite teal. Food delivery. Liam guessed, though the contents looked like a dare. Layered strips of something deep blue and glossy, nestled beside spirals of luminous grain that faintly steamed. He plucked a piece, sniffed, then shrugged. "Bottoms up," he muttered and took a cautious bite. The flavor exploded like pepper and citrus had decided to declare war on each other in his mouth. "Whoa," he gasped, fanning his tongue. "Remind me never to insult the chef." The drone beeped, swiveling its sensor in a way that almost felt like judgment. Liam raised both palms. All right, it's good. Just spicy." When the tray was empty except for a stubborn coil of blue rind, Liam lay back, staring at the shifting script on the ceiling. His heart wouldn't stop pacing circles in his chest, so he forced himself up, pacing circles around the room instead. Another chime. Kalira stepped in, her armor replaced by a robe of soft metallic weave, patterned in flowing lines that caught the light with each movement. Her long ears framed her face, which, though tired, still carried that quiet strength. "You have eaten," she observed, eyes flicking to the empty tray. "More or less survived it," Liam quipped, wiping a stray crumb from his shirt. "Don't suppose dessert's part of galactic diplomacy." She almost smiled, then grew thoughtful. "There is something sweeter if you wish, but first you must come." "Where to? Not another council, right? I've only just recovered from the first round of glaring." "This time no council," she said. "I wish to show you something." They walked side by side through hushed corridors lit by floating motes of pale light. The air smelled faintly of ozone and ancient stone, a strange but oddly comforting blend. Liam kept up a steady stream of commentary, mostly to keep his nerves from taking over. "So these walls," he said, nodding at the alien inscriptions, "are they decorative, or do they start reciting poetry if you ask nicely?" "They record history," she replied. "Our victories, our mistakes, and the names of those who changed us." "Hope they've left room at the bottom," Liam murmured, half under his breath. Kalira's ears twitched. "Perhaps they have." They stopped before a tall archway of black alloy veined with veins of violet light. Beyond, a chamber opened, vast and quiet, its ceiling lost in shadow. In its heart floated a single projection. A sphere of stars slowly turning, thousands of pinpricks of light marked with drifting sigils. "This is the star loom," she said, voice softer than before. "It shows our empire and its fractures." Liam stepped closer, the projection's glow washing his features in pale gold. "Fractures." She gestured. Lines of red light snaked across the starfield, spiderwebbing outward. "Civil war has split us," she said. "Allied houses draw away, each seeking power. Some still stand with me, others plot to see me fall." "And me?" he asked, voice strangely small in the echoing chamber. "Where do I fit in?" Kalira's gaze didn't waver. "By aiding me on the battlefield, you fulfilled an old sign. An offworlder's hand lifts the heiress regent. It speaks to unity beyond blood and species. Some believe it means I can rule without tearing the empire apart. And others, they will see you as proof I am weak, that I lean on an outsider." "Nice to know I'm universally popular," Liam muttered. "You sure you picked the right human?" "I did not pick," she said quietly. "Fate did." He tried to hold her gaze, failed, and let his eyes drift back to the starfield. "This whole thing feels bigger than me, bigger than a bad hyperjump even." "It is," she said and stepped closer. "Yet here you are." "So," Liam said, his tone carefully light, If anyone tries to stab me, I just yell help and hope your fan club shows up. Kalira's ears twitched. Yes, she said, but do so loudly. He laughed, surprising even himself. Deal. Together they walked toward the hall where Destiny, and probably another round of suspicious glares, waited. And despite everything, Liam found the knot of fear in his chest had loosened, just enough to let hope slip through. The council chamber shimmered with quiet menace. Curved walls of dark alloy reflected pale blue light cast by hovering lantern drones, their hum as steady as a heartbeat. Liam tried to keep his breathing normal as he stood beside Kalira at the dais, wishing his heartbeat would stop sounding like a faulty coolant pump. Opposite them, nobles and generals from dozens of houses clustered in arching tiers. Some wore robes threaded with living metal that rippled with each breath. Others stood clad in segmented battle armor scarred from real war. The air tasted of old incense and colder suspicion. You sure there's not a side door we could sneak out of? Liam whispered, shifting on his feet. Kalira didn't turn, but her long ears angled toward him. If there were, I would not take it. Just checking. I like to know where all the exits are. Occupational hazard. A trio of elder counselors stepped forward, each marked by a floating sigil above their right shoulder. The central one, a tall woman whose skin glimmered faintly with embedded circuitry, lifted her chin. Kalira of the Starborn Wing, she declared, voice cool as glass. You bring before us an off-worlder unbound by oath or blood. Explain. Kalira stepped forward, her robe catching light in slow silver ripples. You see before you the one who aided me in the field, not as soldier, not as sworn, but as stranger. His hand lifted me when my guard fell. You know the words of the loom. From beyond the stars, an outstretched hand may hold the realm together. A wave of murmured voices rolled through the chamber, some dismissive, others tinged with fear. Right, Liam muttered under his breath, no pressure. The leftmost counselor spoke, gaze sharp enough to peel paint. The prophecy is as old as the stars themselves. A stranger may lift the heiress, but what proof do we have this human, she nearly spat the word, is the one? Well, Liam said, voice cracking slightly, I do have a talent for showing up where I'm not wanted. Seems to count for something here. A few nobles glanced at each other, brows twitching. Kalira didn't smile, but the corner of her mouth softened, almost approving. The counselor on the right, shorter and clad in a mantle of shifting scales, leaned forward. Perhaps we test him. Let the off-worlder speak for himself. Liam swallowed, then exhaled. Look, I'm no hero, he began, words echoing into the chamber's hush. I don't know your customs, your battles, or your politics. All I know is when I saw her on the ground, I didn't think about prophecies or power. I thought someone needs help. His gaze swept over the sea of staring eyes. If that's weakness in your eyes, so be it. But where I'm from, it's the right thing to do, even if you get a plasma burn for your trouble. A ripple of amusement, or maybe grudging respect, moved across a few faces. Liam's shoulders eased slightly. I'm no general, he went on, but if your whole empire can't stand the sight of someone helping your heiress, maybe the real weakness isn't me being here. Maybe it's forgetting why someone should bother helping in the first place. A beat of silence, heavy as gravity, Kalira stepped forward, voice ringing clear. Well spoken and true. The central counselor's brow creased, though her voice remained measured. Words are wind, show us strength. Kalira inclined her head, then let them see. At her signal, the chamber's walls shimmered. Holographic projections flared to life, three-dimensional images of war. Fleets exchanging lances of plasma in orbit, fortress worlds wreathed in energy shields cracking under siege, armies clashing across ash-covered fields. Liam had seen his share of shipyard accidents, but nothing compared to these living visions of devastation. Then, at the center, the image shifted. Kalira kneeling, armor scorched, Liam's hand lifting her upright. The projection hung there, rotating slowly, undeniable proof. A voice rose from the rear, sharp with scorn. One moment does not decide the fate of an empire. Liam sighed. Yeah, tell me about it, he muttered. I didn't even get a thank you card. Somewhere in the chamber, a single laugh escaped. A younger noble, quickly silenced by a sharp elbow from a neighboring elder. Kalira's gaze swept the assembly. No, it does not decide, but it shows who we are. We stand or fall not by force alone, but by those willing to lift another. And what of the houses who refuse your claim? Challenged the robed woman with scaled mantle. Will you strike them down? Kalira's answer came with iron steadiness. I would rather win their allegiance, but if forced, I will defend what remains of our unity. The counselors exchanged weighted glances. A hush settled that felt stretched over a blade's edge. Liam cleared his throat. Look, I know I don't belong here, he admitted. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes you need someone from outside to remind you what really matters. The central counselor's gaze softened by a fraction. Then let us see if the houses will listen, she intoned. Tonight, you will stand with the heiress when she addresses them. Let your presence be her testament. Standing around awkwardly is kind of my specialty, Liam said, nerves twisting tighter. Kalira's voice, lower now, carried only to him. You have already done more than you know. Hope you're right, Liam whispered back. I'd hate to be the galactic footnote that ruined everything. Her long ears twitched, and for an instant humor flickered behind her silver gaze. If you fall, fall beside me. I'd rather not fall at all, thanks, he muttered, but stepped closer anyway. The council chamber emptied slowly, nobles sweeping past with cool nods or cold glares. Liam let out a shaky breath. Next time, he murmured, maybe you could tell me there'd be speeches before I sign up. Kalira's answering look was as close to laughter as he'd seen in her yet. Next time, she promised, I will warn you. As they turned toward the great doors, the dying light of the holograms painted them both in shifting blues and golds. Liam felt the weight of eyes on him, felt his pulse pounding. But beneath it all, an odd certainty took root. He hadn't meant to step into their story, but somehow, impossibly, he belonged to it now. They stood together on the high balcony overlooking the assembled ranks. Banners of woven metal and light drifted on invisible grav currents, each one marked with a house crest that shimmered against the backdrop of stars. Below, the great courtyard seethed with soldiers, envoys, and nobles, whose jeweled mantles glittered like constellations brought to ground. Liam wiped his palms on his tunic, pulse thrumming like a misaligned reactor. You know, he murmured, leaning slightly toward Kalira, I usually skip public speaking, or at least do it in front of people who don't carry plasma blades. Her ears twitched, catching the words, and a faint warmth touched her voice. And yet you remain. Still time to run, he offered, half serious. I would rather you stayed, she said, and though her face stayed calm, something softer slipped through the lines of command. Below, horns that seemed carved from living crystal let out a resonant note. The courtiers and soldiers fell into ordered silence, a ripple of reverence sweeping through the crowd like wind over sand. Kalira stepped forward, cloak of metallic thread catching the starlight. Liam swallowed hard, then followed, stopping just behind her left shoulder. Her voice rose, clear and measured, yet carrying iron beneath the grace. People of the Starborn Wing, she began, you have seen what we risk. War between our own blood, ruin for our world's darkness where once burned our unity. Faces lifted, some wary, some defiant. Liam caught the flicker of tension in a row of armored captains whose house banners had glowed red in the Star Loom's projection. Kalira lifted a hand, and the banners of the gathered houses shimmered, joined in the air by a single new sigil. A stylized wing coiled protectively around a tiny, off-centered star. You have seen prophecy made flesh, she said, voice low but echoing in every ear. An off-worlder, unknown to our struggles, yet willing to lift what we could not. Liam's throat felt dry as old dust. He managed a wry half-smile at the thousands of eyes fixed on him, and whispered out of the corner of his mouth, no pressure, right? Kalira's silver gaze cut back for an instant, softened, then faced forward again. "Do not see weakness in help given freely," she continued. "See strength that asks for nothing in return. If an outsider can stand for unity, can we not do the same?" The silence stretched, alive with possibility. Then, from near the front, a tall woman clad in black alloy stepped forward and dropped to one knee, helm pressed to the flagstones. A ripple of motion followed as others bowed, hesitant at first, then gathering force until the courtyard shimmered with lowered heads. One older lord with a face lined like cracked stone stayed standing, arms folded. Liam's heart climbed into his throat, but Kalira only inclined her head, acknowledging the refusal. The moment passed, and even the holdouts could not blot out the sight of thousands bowed together. Kalira turned, meeting Liam's gaze fully for the first time on that balcony. "It began with your hand," she said, soft enough that only he could hear. He swallowed hard, voice caught between relief and disbelief. "I still feel like I tripped into this." "Perhaps," she murmured, "but you did not step back out." Banners rose high once more, this time united under the single new crest. Courtiers began to speak among themselves, voices rising not in anger but in rapid, eager debate. The air felt lighter, as if centuries of stubborn pride had shifted by a fraction. A skimmer drifted down toward the balcony, its hull bearing Kalira's crest and the new sigil side by side. She turned to Liam, her expression softer than he had yet seen, ears tilted forward in quiet sincerity. "Come," she said. "We must meet them. Words alone will not hold what we've begun." "And jokes?" Liam asked, mouth quirking. She almost smiled. "Jokes may help." They boarded the skimmer together. Liam caught sight of his reflection in the polished alloy of the hatch. The same man who once thought his biggest worry was a leaky plasma valve, now standing beside an heir whose empire trembled on the edge of rebirth. The craft rose, sweeping them over the gathered ranks. Below, people raised hands in salute, voices lifted, not in perfect unison but close enough to feel like something real. Liam let out a slow breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "You still think this will work?" he asked softly. Kalira's gaze swept the sea of uplifted faces. "I believe," she said, "it has already begun to." They landed before the old council hall, its great doors opening as envoys from the divided houses stepped out to meet them. Liam felt the old knot of panic twist in his chest, then ease, surprising him. Somewhere along the way, the stranger had become something more. Not a hero, but a reminder that help offered freely could shake even the deepest certainties. As they walked side by side, Liam glanced at Kalira, voice quiet. "So, what now?" "Now," she said, long ears angling forward as the envoys approached, "we convince them that hope is worth holding on to. And after that," she hesitated, then met his gaze, "then we see where the stars carry us." Liam chuckled, heart lighter than it had been in days. "Stars know I've had worse travel plans." Their steps matched, the doors of the council hall towering before them. Liam felt the weight of what lay ahead, but it no longer felt crushing. He wasn't the same man who had stumbled into a battlefield by accident. Kalira's hand brushed his arm, a silent reminder that he wasn't walking alone. And for the first time in his life, Liam Harper stepped forward not as a fixer of broken metal, but as someone who had helped hold something far greater together. And in the hush before words and debate resumed, with banners rising behind them and the galaxy itself poised on the edge of change, Liam realized that sometimes the smallest choice, a single hand outstretched, could shift the course of stars.